Why, hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Jenna and I am an alcoholic, and today, literally today, I am 4 years sober from alcohol. And let me tell you, it has been a journey, so I wanted to share with you today my top 8 tips for getting sober in my 20s specifically, but this also applies to any age. Know that you are not alone, okay? We are in this together. Before I get into the specific tips, I just want to touch really briefly on my personal journey of how and why I got sober and how I got to this point today, 4 years sober. I go a lot more in depth into my sobriety struggles, why I got sober in this other video that I made, which I'll link. But to kind of summarize it for you, I started drinking heavier definitely in college. I was blacking out most of the times that I was drinking. I did not have a grasp on, when enough was enough. It was never enough. And I kind of thought that that was normal. I quickly was shown that it kind of wasn't. My freshman year of college, my roommates had an intervention with me. So I was like, okay, lesson learned. I'm just not gonna have hard alcohol. So then I would just drink one. But then the problem was I was blacking out, drinking 2 bottles of wine at a time. Fast forward a year, 2 years tops, and I had a partner tell me that they could not be with me if I continued to drink. Again, I was like, I just need to figure this out. Okay, this is a math problem that I just need to learn how to solve, and I'll be able to drink like a normal person. That stint of sobriety lasted 5-ish months when once again, I was like, I am cured. I figured out the solution. I'm just gonna try harder to control myself. Obviously that didn't work. There was a time during the pandemic when I went on a Zoom date and you could just now buy alcohol to be delivered. And I was like, I'm just going to get those little teeny tiny mini wine bottles. I ended up drinking every single one of them, spilled wine in my computer, broke it. I woke up to house plants broken in my room. So that was a low point. I was like, this is a problem. And then I was sober for again, 6-ish months. That was around the time when I started to realize I will never logic my way around the fact that I have a problem. But this is also when I shifted career stuff and I was working in mainstream Hollywood. I just started drinking again because I was like, oh, these people are different. I'm older. This is a more professional setting, so I should be able to control myself. Spoiler alert, I could not. Some people are like, oh, well, what's the rock bottom that led to this sobriety? And I think there were multiple rock bottoms along the way. Nothing as drastic as me going to jail or going to rehab or anything like that. Actually, the last time I drank was not one of my rock bottoms. Basically, the gist of it was I hadn't seen my family since before the pandemic. They were in town visiting. I had a crew wrap party for a project. I went out. I said, I'm going to have one drink because my family just got into town and we're, doing stuff in the morning. I had my drink. I go to leave the bar. Someone was like, oh, I'm going to order shots. Who wants one? And I was like, me. And then when the shots came out, there were not enough shots for everyone. And I did not get one. And I sat in that moment and I was like, holy shit. Had I been given a shot, who knows what would have happened. That really just made me realize that it doesn't matter the amount of rules or restrictions I place on myself. The door being open is already too much of a risk. Elizabeth Gilbert has this really good quote that says, I've never seen any life transformation that didn't begin with the person in question finally getting tired of their own bullshit. And I think that is the number one thing that it takes to kickstart your sobriety. Getting tired of your own bullshit. I do not want to spend another day at war with myself. Life is too short. And now here I am, 4 years into sobriety. So getting into my top tips, tip number 0 is to not rely on this rock bottom idea of that you have to hit rock bottom to get sober. But number 1 is think about how much easier it actually is to be sober than it is to drink. It's easier in the sense that you're not having to constantly gauge how much other people are drinking, when it's appropriate to go get another drink, who's pre-gaming before, how many shots they've had. I always had to sometimes I would be writing how many drinks I had on my hand so that I could see it and remember it and try to pace myself. It was just such a mentally challenging thing to track and attempt to control and fail to control my own consumption of alcohol and being so aware of what everyone around me was doing, being self-conscious if I'm being weird or too drunk, then not to mention how much easier it is to be able to drive yourself home or be in charge of how you're getting home, how much easier it is to not be hungover in the morning and to be able to do whatever you want to do, how much easier it is to wash your face and take a shower before you go to bed, how much easier it is to remember fun nights with your friends, how much easier it is to not be self-conscious of what you said or did the night before, how much easier it is to check your phone and know that there's not insane drunk texts that you have to, do damage control the next day for. Have your list. Literally write it down so that you can look at it in times where you're like, oh, it'd be so much easier if I could just drink with all of them. No, it would not. It's so much easier to be sober, and you have to remember that. Tip number 2, and I know this isn't totally for everyone, but I would highly encourage you to yap about it. tell people about it, and treat your sobriety like it is your wholesome bestie and alcohol like it is your toxic ex that you would be embarrassed for people to know that you went back to. You know, I talk about my sobriety. I tell people I don't drink. My hot take is that the whole I'm not drinking tonight or whatever doesn't work, at least for me, because I don't want people to offer me a drink the next time they see me either. I will say I am sober. I am a recovering alcoholic, because sometimes, unfortunately, I think that's what it takes for other people to respect your sobriety. And I found that so much in my personal journey that, you know, when I was younger and I was taking like my shorter stints of sobriety to like figure things out, I was not identifying with having an alcohol problem. I would just tell people, oh, I'm not drinking right now. Oh, not tonight. And so they would push on it. People don't push when I tell them that I am an alcoholic. That language makes people go, oh, okay, good for you. I respect that. Again, this is such a personal thing, and some people don't want people knowing that they're sober, but I will tell you, at least for me personally, it has made my life so much easier because people know not to offer me alcohol. They know not to bring it over to my house. They know not to gift it to me at a birthday dinner. I talk about it. I post about it. If someone offers me something, I tell them I'm sober. So that means most places that I go, it's not this constant conversation of, oh, well, do you want one tonight? Or what about now? Or, you know, whatever. And I do think that the other benefit to that, I understand people not wanting people in their business or it feeling personal. Of course, I'm just kind of a no or less boundaries person in that way. But I will say that it is nice for people to kind of generally know that I'm sober, because they can also talk to me and ask me questions. I've had people come to me who like wanted help getting sober and stuff, and that is very valuable and very important to me, because also helping other people get sober is something that keeps me sober, hence doing this right now. This is so important to me to talk about and gives me so much purpose in my own sobriety too. So if you talk about alcohol and you talk about your drinking days, like that is your toxic ex. It's like, you know, that is bad for you. Everyone knows that is bad for you. I'm like, if my friends knew I went back to my toxic ex alcohol and they knew all of the things that toxic ex did to me, like that is so embarrassing versus getting to hang out with my wholesome bestie, my sobriety. My next tip that I think is really important is do not do the same exact things you did sober, just removing the alcohol, because that will feel like there is a void, like there's something missing, because there is. You need to replace it. I would encourage you to like not, especially in early sobriety, not do the same things that you used to do at all, in terms of just like if your thing was going out to bars and clubs and stuff, because you don't want it to feel like a lack thing. Also, it honestly just got, at least for me, like less fun. Like I will go to a bar or a club or something for an event or for someone's birthday or to catch up with friends every now and again, but I usually go when there's drinking involved or it's a drinking specific space. I go for something, like there's a purpose behind it. And a lot of times when I was drinking, I was just going out like to go out, and that's like what everyone did. So I just stopped doing that. You know, if that was happening, I wasn't partaking. I was planning, you know, different kinds of activities with my friends. We're going to have movie night. We're going to have game night. We're going to have it at my house so that I can control that there's like not alcohol there. Or if I did go out to a bar or club or whatever, I would find reasons to leave earlier, whether that's, oh, I'm going to do something I want to do when I get home, like watch a movie, or I have something to do early in the morning. I'll book a yoga class for the next morning. So it's like I can't stay out till 2 a.m. because I got to go to my class and be wholesome. So don't just do the same things, live the same lifestyle, removing the alcohol, really replace it and add things to your life. The next tip, and maybe this is the most important one, I don't know, I feel like I'm always like, oh no, this is the most important one, but it is so important to understand where true confidence comes from. Because a big piece of why I drank, especially in social situations, especially in like romantic, on dates, coming to terms with my queerness, like with sexuality, so much of why I relied on alcohol so heavily was because I felt like it made me confident in social situations. But it actually did the opposite. That confidence was not real. In fact, it's net negative when you consider like all of the relationships or things that I ruined or was awkward or like self-conscious after the fact because I was drunk. It's not real, because true confidence comes from feeling 100% aligned with myself, my actions. I have integrity. In sobriety, I am in alignment. I believe in things and I act and say things accordingly. When I was drinking, I was absolutely not in alignment because I would believe certain things and then I would behave in completely different ways. I would say completely different things to what I believe. Something that always kind of haunted me was when people were like sober, or what is it, drunk thoughts speak sober truth, drunk words are sober thoughts. I do not believe that in the slightest. Alcohol is a neurotoxin. You're poisoning your brain and your body. It is not a truth serum, or else I don't know, the government would be like using it on people. So true confidence comes from integrity. It comes from your words and actions and beliefs being aligned and being aware and being present and conscious in that. I am proud of the things I've accomplished in my sobriety and otherwise, and I'm proud of the person that I am, and I like myself because I do the things that I believe. I didn't like myself when I was drinking because I was acting not in accordance with my beliefs and desires all the time and doing things that were embarrassing or harmful or ridiculous or dumb, and that does not make you feel confident. My next tip is sober communities. This is also, I mean, all of them are so important equally. Sober community is also the other huge difference between my life when I was just attempting to get sober over and over again and now with 4 years of sobriety is I started going to AA meetings. It doesn't have to be AA if that doesn't jive with you. I would encourage, though, you check it out. I had a lot of like bias against it, and I thought it was for like old white straight men, but there are, especially in bigger cities and online, there's so many meetings online, especially for queer people, for women, for young people. You can really get niche. And there's also so many different types of meetings. There's meetings where they read the big book. There's readings where it's like, you know, certain steps in certain months. And then there's certain meetings where it's just speakers and people talk, and you never have to read the book, and you don't really even have to know. Like, I mean, I encourage you to work a program if that helps you, but sometimes the social aspect of it is what does it for me, and like just being around other sober people and having a space to talk about it and have that community is irreplaceable, essential, honestly, in my opinion. And along with that, I think that having parasocial relationships with sober celebrities is also okay and welcome. I think it's so cool to get to know people that you look up to or celebrities or whatever who are sober, that you can listen to them speak about it, and that you can be like, oh wow, these cool people who have cool glamorous lives, they have these glamorous lives that don't involve alcohol, and that's amazing. And aspirational and like cool, especially in your 20s when it feels like this pressure of like alcohol being glam. I think in the recent years it's definitely gotten a lot better. There's a lot more like respect for sober curious and sober people, and I think especially product wise, like there are so many different kinds of mocktails. I do think we are living in the best time ever to be sober, between all of the events and the mocktails and having social media and sober community online. I don't care where you get it from, but get yourself a sober community. And along with that, along with mocktails, my next tip is to romanticize the relaxation or connection or fun ritual more than the drink itself. So find other ways to kind of romanticize like a cozy night in of like what maybe used to be a wine night for me. I'll have a mocktail and do a bubble bath, or find other sensory, like have a good candle, romanticizing the ritual rather than the alcohol, and having kind of a system in place for when you do have cravings. Like, is there a book that's your favorite sobriety book to turn back to? Is there a favorite podcast that you can just drop everything and go on a 5 or 10 minute walk and return having listened to your podcast? What is it that you can create a ritual that you also connect with, like being able to get through those urges? Would be like, okay, like mentally, subconsciously, you're like, I've gotten through this before, I've done this before, I succeeded, and I'll do it again. The next tip is that your addict brain will find other outlets, so pay attention to that. At least in my brain, it's like I have an addict's brain. If it's not alcohol, it's transferred to something else, and it has been kind of different things throughout the year that I've had to manage, you know, my brain and my need to like fill a void, and all these other things around like emotional sobriety is also such a key, because it can be food, it can be sugar, it can be love or sex or romance or spending money. I have touched on like probably all of those things like throughout the past 4 years. And so working on emotional sobriety, which there are specific meetings for that I've attended, there's like a lot of specific resources about emotional sobriety specifically. But I think that kind of comes after like managing the alcohol part of it for sure, but it is just something to pay attention to where that addiction kind of transfers to. And I don't mean that in like a doom and gloom, like you're always going to be cursed with this kind of way, but just, you know, something to be aware of. And last but not least, protect your peace at all costs. You don't owe anyone an explanation ever for anything. I know I was like, oh, but tell people. You don't have to tell people jack shit if you don't want to, but you do need to protect your peace. So that can look like leaving the bar whenever you want to or need to. It can look like canceling a function. It can look like, I don't know, a lot of times for me, protecting my peace is going inward, but sometimes it can be the opposite. It can be going into a meeting instead of going to hang out with your friends. And I don't say this in like a, you know, you should isolate way, but just you need to prioritize your sobriety above all else, because to me it's like, if I don't have my sobriety, I'll lose, like I don't have the rest of the things in my life. That is the glue that is holding so much together for me, and so it is the priority, even when it can, you know, people might make you feel bad for prioritizing it. Again, this is why I think you should talk to people so that you can, you know, they would understand. Oh, one more really important bonus tip. I think that the serenity prayer is also a big staple of my 4 years of sobriety, of something that gets me through not just hard times in sobriety, but in life in general. So I want to close with it, and it goes, God, but you can replace that if you want to with anything else. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. I've been yapping for like 45 minutes now because I can talk about this all day. So if you have any questions, be sure to leave them down below. Let's chat. I have 3 other videos that I've made about this topic specifically, and I'm going to put a bunch of resources down below since I don't have time to go through all of my favorite quotes, my favorite books. There's so many good resources. I hope that this could be one to you, and wherever you are on your journey, best of luck and so much love to you, and I'll see you in the next one.